Test. Folks, good evening. If I can just have your attention for a moment. My name is Derek Phelps. I'm the Executive Director of the Siting Council. We're going to resume our business here in just a few minutes. We're going to start. I just want to take a moment and talk to you a little bit about the process that you'll see that will unfold here when we get started in just a few minutes. The chairman will read an opening statement that's designed to explain some preemption issues as it relates to federal jurisdiction. And then I expect that he's going to recognize the first selectman, ask the first selectman if he wants to say a few words. He spoke briefly this afternoon. Any other elected officials that will be in the room will be asked to recognize themselves. We have two sign-up sheets out in the hallway, though. And what we're asking folks to do is, if you're a member of the public and you're intending to speak this evening, if you wish to speak about the project that's before us, we ask that you sign the sign-up sheet. Please write as legibly as possible. And then we'll have elected officials speak, followed by the members of the public. So we've got the two sheets, and we ask that you sign up if you intend to speak. Once we conclude all of that, and we get done with public comment, we're going to close the public comment session of the record, and we're going to resume the evidentiary portion that we didn't conclude this afternoon with Council Cross and the applicant. So we'll do the public comment session, then we'll continue with the evidentiary portion, conclude the evidentiary portion. And I'm sorry, the other thing that will take place right at the beginning after the chairman reads his opening statement is we're going to ask the applicant to give a brief summary presentation of what is proposed, describing the project, the facility that is the subject of tonight's hearing, describing the characteristics of the project and the needs that it is intended to fill. So, if you're here this evening and you're intending to speak, we ask you to sign the sign-up sheet, and we'll begin shortly. Thank you.
Docket 388, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This hearing is called to order this Tuesday, January 12, 2010, at 7 o'clock. And I'm Dan Caruso, Chairman of the Connecticut Siting Council. Other members of the Council with us here this evening are Colin C. Tate, Vice Chairman, Brian Golubowski, the designee for Commissioner Amy Morella, Commissioner of the Department of Environmental Protection, Wayne Viesky, the designee for Commissioner Kevin M. Delgado, Commissioner of the Department of Public Utility Control, Philip T. Ashton, Daniel P. Lynch Jr., Edward S. Walensky, Dr. Barbara C. Bell, and James J. Murphy Jr. Members of the staff who are here with us this evening include S. Derek Phelps, our Executive Director, who you've already met, Melanie Bachman, our Staff Attorney, Michael Perone, our Siting Analyst, Lisa Fontaine, our Custodian of the Record, our Court Reporter, Gail Gregoris, and our Audio Technician, Garrett Mitchell. Now, this hearing is held pursuant to the provisions of Title 16 of the Connecticut General Statutes and of the Uniform Administrative Procedures Act upon an application from New Singular Wireless PCS LLC, also known as AT&T, for a Certificate of Environmental Compatibility and Public Need for the construction, maintenance, and operation of a telecommunications facility located at 1990 Litchfield Turnpike, Woodbridge. And this application was received by the Council on September 23rd, 2009. As a reminder to all, ex parte, that is, off-the-record communication with a member of the Council, a member of the Council staff, on the merits of this application is prohibited by law. Now, this afternoon, the Council conducted a field review of the site. We went there to the site in which the applicant seeks to develop the proposed facility in order to observe firsthand the potential effects of the proposal. And further, at this Council's request, the applicant flew a balloon at the site today between the hours of 12 and 4:30 to attempt to simulate the height of the proposed facility. Of course, we all know the effects of wind, and we take that into account. Now, in 1996, the Congress of the United States recognized that there existed a nationwide need for high-quality wireless telecommunications services, including cellular telephones. And through the Federal Telecommunications Act of 1996, Congress expressed its desire to promote competition to encourage technical innovations, to foster lower prices for telecommunications services. And thus, in issuing cellular telephone licenses, the federal government has preempted the determination of the need for cellular service by the state, although not as to the need for any particular site. Moreover, the federal government, through the FCC, has established design standards to ensure technical integrity and to ensure nationwide compatibility between and amongst all systems. I wish to note specific ways in which the Federal Telecommunications Act of 1996 restricts this council's actions. And this act prohibits any state or local government or agency thereof, including this council, from regulating telecommunications towers on the basis of the environmental and its health effects of radio frequency emissions, to the extent that such towers and their equipment comply with the FCC's regulations concerning those emissions. Further, this act blocks state and local governments and agencies thereof, such as this council, from prohibiting personal wireless service for any town or for any area. Additionally, this act prohibits councils such as ours and local and federal and state agencies from discriminating between and amongst providers of equivalent services. Simply put, even should one company provide services to an area, other companies have a right to compete and to offer their services therein. Also significant in these proceedings is the fact that as of November 18th of last year, the FCC directed that all decisions on such tower applications must be made within 150 days, and should we not make that decision, then the applicant has the right to go to the Superior Court and have it determined by a judge in the Superior Court in accordance with their procedures. Now, most of the important decisions the Council has to make include, but are not limited to, weighing whether or not this applicant has met its burden of proof, that there exists a coverage problem in the area sought to be covered, and that that coverage problem cannot be solved by tariff sharing or by utilizing some other existing facility. Additionally, the Council needs to examine the applicant's proposal before us, including its form and height, so as to determine if the proposal will solve the coverage problem. Moreover, we must examine whether better available alternatives exist, including better available alternative sites. And the parties and interveners to these proceedings include only the applicant, which is New Singular Wireless PCS LLC, aka AT&T, and they're here through their attorney, Christopher B. Fisher, of the law firm of Cuddy and Fader, LLP. Now, this evening's hearing is a continuation of that which we began earlier today. And it has been, we reserved the first portion for the public to make brief oral statements into the record. Now, these statements, as to the person making them, does not subject the person making those statements to cross-examination. By the same token, it also means that the person making those statements does not have the right to question others. Okay? And those who wish to make statements, there's a sign-up sheet by the front door there. And all statements made here tonight will become part of the record for the Council's consideration. Those who wish to note for those who are here and choose not to speak at this time, or should any of your neighbors wish to speak and could not be able to be here, that you may send written statements to the Council within 30 days of this hearing. And those written statements will be given the same way as if actually spoken here this evening. And if time remains, we will continue this session which began earlier today in order to conclude these proceedings. Members of the Council come from throughout the state, and so we may or may not get to everything. If we are unable to get to them, then we'll have to conclude this in New Britain at some point in the future. And so therefore I'd hope to allow everyone here who wishes to speak, and to accommodate your neighbors, because I don't know everything each of you is going to say, and I'm sure you don't know what each of your neighbors is going to say. So if you could avoid repetition, if you could be concise, that will assist us in hearing all your neighbors, and that will assist us in hearing all the opinions in this community. And apparently the cell service here is fine, although the phone always goes off at the wrong time, doesn't it? At this point, what I'm going to ask to do, because we had our presentation earlier, but there are those here who may not know exactly what is before us, I'm going to ask Mr. Bascom to give us a very brief presentation of that which is before us. Mr. Bascom, just tell the audience who you are with, and then if you'd proceed to tell us what you're about.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Rod Bascom, and I'm a partner with Clough Harbor and Associates here in Connecticut. We're an engineering firm, and I'll take 2 minutes of your time to describe the proposal. The property is located at 1990 Litchfield Turnpike. It's the Shepherd property. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the property. It's approximately 21 acres in total. And these sites, we have to provide the access roadway to the site. And on this particular property, we're going to be using about 80 feet of the existing driveway, the asphalt driveway that goes to the house. And then we're going to be going along an existing like logging type road. And basically we start here, and it's shown in brown, and it goes up the hill. The maximum grade that we're going to be on that site is about 20%. And the roadway is about just over 1,000 feet long, starting down at the turnpike, going up and around the hill, up to the compound area. The sites require telephone and power to be provided to the site. That will be provided here, shown in orange, from an existing telephone pole along Litchfield Turnpike, and it'll be underground, and it'll go up the hill directly to the compound area. The compound for this proposal is a fenced-in secure area. It's an 8-foot-high security fence with a locking gate, and in that compound is where the equipment goes to support the antennas. The antennas will be mounted. The proposal is for a 170-foot-high monopole. And a monopole, and you've probably seen them in the area, they're just the one pole that goes up. They don't have the lattice, the different pieces of cross bracing, and they don't have the big guy wires. It's just one pole. It's called a monopole. The site is designed to put 4 sets of antennas, or 4 carriers, at the proposed site. There's a minimal number of trees, less than 10 trees, greater than 6 inches in diameter, that will have to be removed to formalize the access road and to build the site. The access road will be crushed gravel, will be 12 foot wide. There are no wetlands on the site or any other environmental issues in and around this property. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bascom. I'm also going to point out that, and we'll probably remind you later, if you go onto the Siting Council's website, which is www.ct.gov//CSC, you will be able to find, at your convenience, copies of all the documents filed in these proceedings, together with links to other government agencies, to other studies, World Health Organization, National Institute of Health, anything that relates to anything that is before us, you will find quickly and easily on that website. I'd also like to point out, and I appreciate the presence of First Selectman Ed Sheed, together with Senator Crisco. Mr. First Selectman, would you care to address us at this time, and then if the Senator wishes to thereafter, he's welcome to.
Here.
Good evening. At this time, welcome again to Woodbridge.
Thank you again, Mr. First Selectman.
No music this evening, but that's
Well, we were waiting for your selection.
Okay.
Casey Kasem stopping by later.
So I'll stay for the evening. As I told you this afternoon, I submitted a letter to Mr. Phelps, Executive Director of the Siting Council, on October 15, 2009. And I'll just read a portion of that letter. On October 14, 2009, Kevin Guy and Attorney Daniel M. Lau gave a presentation on behalf of AT&T as to the proposed wireless telecommunication tower facility to be located at 1990 Litchfield Turnpike in Woodbridge. Following the presentation, several residents of Woodbridge spoke either in opposition or with reservations about the application. And then I forwarded a summary of their testimony. I also enclosed copies of written correspondence received by the Board of Selectmen prior to AT&T's presentation for your review. Following these public comments, the Board of Selectmen voted unanimously to inform the Siting Council that it should explore alternative locations for a proposed tower other than the proposed tower site, such as moving the tower away from the chosen location. If the tower must be near the chosen location, consider installing antenna on other structures in the area, such as the Regional Water Authority filtration plant, transmission tower lines, existing structures on the Shepherd property, such as the silo, or design the tower to look more like a tree. And attached to that letter was a summary of people who spoke at that public hearing, some of whom are Constance Eklund, 27 Cedar Road, who felt that the area of Litchfield Turnpike is a pristine historic valley and it should not be destroyed to benefit 1.5-mile radius of service. Joseph B. Solido of 11 Clark Road recommended the southeast corner of Woodbridge for the tower. Richard Forsilius of 1105 Racebrook Road, a past president of the Woodbridge Park Association, proposed several options. One, moving it away from the chosen location, or if the tower must be near the chosen location, consider installing antenna on other structures in the area, such as the Regional Water Authority filtration plant, transmission line towers, existing structures on the Shepherd property, such as the silos, and the design of the tower to look more like a tree. In addition, we received letters from Carol Rosen of 14 Clark Road, who felt that the proposed tower would have a negative impact on bird migrations. The West Rock Bridge, which is on the other side of the valley, is an important bird breeding area. And she also suggested co-locating on existing high-voltage power line towers. Terry Edwin and Stuart Green of 1944 Litchfield Turnpike felt that this would have a negative impact on the environment, animal, human, and plant life. Nancy Pope, who spoke here this afternoon, suggested that the tower be located in either an industrial or commercial zone. Since that time, we've received correspondence of the Board of Selectmen, one of which was from Nancy Pope, who spoke here this afternoon. And I'll just read a portion of her email communication with the Board of Selectmen on January 7, saying that she has located an alternative site on the roof of the old Lender building at 1764 and 1768 Litchfield Turnpike. This is the roof where the Woodbridge Police had a monopole. There are currently two monopoles on the roof, and she talked with a real estate agent for the owner, and he was enthusiastic about having another monopole tenant on the roof. She also asked that the council consider co-locating on the new 345 kilovolt transmission towers. And we also received a communication from Catherine Bishop Gartner, who can't be here tonight. Her letter is addressed to the Siting Council and to the Board of Selectmen dated January 11, 2010. I'll read a portion of that letter. She says, I'm distressed by the news that a 170-foot tower is planned to rise above our historic Happy Valley. The area east and west of Route 69, Litchfield Turnpike, is a historic area dating back to the early settlers of Woodbridge. The Sperrys, the Bishops, the Darlings, the Doolittles, and even the Shepherds are among them. The town of Woodbridge, the state of Connecticut, and the private groups have shown their complete dedication to preserving the open space and scenic beauty of this land. In 1967, the 152 acres of the Bishop Darling estate was purchased by funds from the town and the state. Recently, the Trust for Public Land, the Woodbridge Park Association, and the Woodbridge Land Trust together raised funds and matched by town and state funds were able to purchase 35 acres of the Shepherd Farm. Over the years, many hours of time and energy have been spent to keep this area pristine and undeveloped. It is an enormous asset to the town of Woodbridge and the region. The scenic vistas are valued by all. I'm sure you all saw that as you were out there this afternoon. The beauty of the miles along Litchfield Turnpike can match scenic vistas anywhere in the winter. I had the opportunity to attend the balloon launch this afternoon at the site, and also the hearing this past afternoon between 3 and 5 p.m. As to the balloon launch, the applicant admitted that because of the breezy conditions, the balloon did not reach the required height of 170 feet during the majority of the time. It was also established at the hearing this afternoon that the proposed tower will be clearly visible above the tree line from the Darling House, which is a historic home in Woodbridge on Litchfield Turnpike, which is maintained by the Woodbridge Historic Society as a museum. It also appears from questioning by members of the Siting Council that it does not appear that the applicant has sustained its burden of proof by providing sufficient evidence to justify a tower height of 170 feet, or that it explained, or that it explored alternative locations as set forth in my letter of October 15, such as the regional water filtration plant, co-location on transmission line towers, or at the West Rock Ridge. So for all those reasons, I would suggest that this council deny the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bruce. And since you were here, Mr. First Selectman, I know that we've tried to answer many of the issues, or obtain answers from this panel, many of the questions that you've raised. Senator Crisco, would you have anything to share with us at this point, or would you care to wait? It's always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, sir. And let me express my appreciation to each and every one of you for the service that you give to the state of Connecticut. We have worked in the past on the proposed City of Derby site, and also in Hamden at the agricultural station, where we also worked together where the particular apparatus was placed in the silo. I just want to thank the Society Council for all the work they do and associate myself with remarks of First Selectman Sheehy. It's very unfortunate that we have a very lovely neighbor who could definitely benefit from this decision. And yet we have many neighbors who will be at a disadvantage in regards to scenic pollution. So I just, again, ask that you deliberate and weigh all the pros and cons. I wish that there was an optional decision in regards to a silo or being placed on the new transmission wires that we have running through town, but that's up for you to decide. But it's unfortunate, but when you look at the pros and cons, I also want to, again, agree with First Selectman Sheehy and ask for your consideration to deny the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. It's always a pleasure to have your input. It's always very valuable. At this point, I'm going to call upon William Guth to be followed by Marie Kane, it appears. Mr. Guth, and you as well as everyone else, I'm going to ask you to spell your last name. I'm going to ask you to tell us where you live, because we do transcribe all this and we send it to the town clerk. So everybody has a transcription. We want to make sure we attribute the right statements to the right people, okay?
My name is William Guth, last name spelled G-U-T-H. I live on Downs Road in Bethany. I would like to address the public utility aspect of this undertaking. One would expect with a public utility that it would be useful and there would be an adequate level of service. Apparently this is not the case, and especially where we live, the coverage is very bad. With public utilities, there's a certain, shall we say, lack of aesthetics. When you consider power lines, utility poles, where I live, there's a ugly utility pole right in my face, 35 feet from the front door. I don't like it, but if I want electricity, if I want telephone, I have to live with that. Therefore, I think with cellular service, if we want adequate service as a public utility, I think there are certain trade-offs that must be accepted. Also, there's a public safety aspect. Increasingly, people rely on cellular service to report accidents. And I dare say on Litchfield Turnpike and Route 63, there have been quite a few accidents. I think that if there are coverage gaps, then this has a direct effect on reporting accidents. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Guth. Next is Marie Kane, to be followed by Constance Cryer Esluna. You're Ms. Kane? Yes. And you too, if you'd spell your name and tell us where you live, please.
Okay. My name is Maria Kane. I live on 1891 Litchfield Turnpike, and I am chairman of the Woodbridge Conservation Commission. The Woodbridge Conservation Commission considers this proposal a landmark issue in maintaining and protecting open space and the beauty of Woodbridge. The identified site on Shepherd Farm is immediately adjacent to 35 acres of farmland that were purchased in 2006 with state DEP grant funds by the Woodbridge Conservation Commission, the Woodbridge Park Association, the Woodbridge Land Trust for Open Space Preservation. The location of a cell tower adjacent to the designated open space is inconsistent with the philosophy of open space preservation. In addition, the proposed 170-foot tower will cast its shadow over historic properties in Litchfield Turnpike, including the Darling House, historically designated brick kiln, and the offices of the Historical Society. Considering the historical and open space significance of this area of Litchfield Turnpike, it is difficult to believe that there are not more appropriate alternatives, such as co-location, for example, to meet the cell transmission needs of the community. Today I saw how high the cell tower is going to go, although the wind was a little elusive. I have visual proof of how this tower will dominate the unique bucolic landscape. This is only the height. The bulk of the tower must be incredible to support that height and to make sure the winds do not make it fall. I do not know for sure, but I can imagine, and I have to believe, that when it is erected, it will shake the ground and affect the already fragile historic kiln that is only yards away, not to mention what it will do permanently to the soil around it and the kiln. A cell tower proposal was turned down in the center of town because it was in the proximity of the historic Woodbridge downtown. This historic kiln is in the shadow of this proposed tower and in close proximity to a number of other significant Woodbridge historical sites. It is clear in the memory of the citizens of this town a ruling of the Siting Council to erect an extensive electric grid throughout the town. Woodbridge made a great sacrifice at the hands of the utility companies for the benefit of towns beyond Woodbridge. We live every day with these enormous electric poles in our town and how they affect our personal properties. We thought there would be no further man-made intrusions. Safety of the citizens of Woodbridge is of paramount importance, but it can be provided without altering the environment. For the sacrifice that Woodbridge has made regarding this extensive electric grid, I challenge the Siting Council to rule that the utilities companies and the cell phone companies cooperate and make this grid work for Woodbridge. The company should devise a way to put cell towers within the grid or on top of the grid. The Siting Council can begin a decade of, call it what you will, the necessary greening of the grid, a solution that will benefit not only Woodbridge but other towns in Connecticut faced with this issue. It is a fact that Woodbridge is now served by 10 registered towers and 15 unregistered towers, some of which are hardly visible to passers-by. I have to believe that these unregistered towers are owned by private individuals and companies that have taken the initiative to put devices on their properties to enhance their cell phone capabilities, without costing attention to their systems or themselves. To serve the community and to continue to enhance service competition, cell phone companies should provide their clients with perhaps repeater systems at a one-time charge nominal fee that will enhance their cell phone capability. When you live in Woodbridge, you pay for cable television. When you are in dead areas, there could be a one-time nominal fee for you to pay for other equipment to enhance your cell phone. Consider citizens have driven the 1.5-mile effective radius of this proposed tower. They have found that there are services already working in parts of this area. Compelling cell phone companies to co-locate with other services on existing structures is a must. The purpose of utility companies is primarily to serve the people. Erecting this cell tower in this bucolic corridor of Woodbridge is perhaps the least costly approach for the phone companies and the utility companies. It is easier for them to work in a competitive market by erecting the cell tower and ruin the landscape forever than spend good money and work a more acceptable system for the people and the land. There are huge costs involved in adjusting people's lives and the effects of global warming because of lack of policies or policies of years ago. The changes of technology have improved lives, but they've also made us lose jobs, and our economy has become poor. There may be major costs for utility companies to cooperate with each other for the sake of the people and the communities they are supposed to serve. But why not face up to it now instead of the community being sorry for it in the future? Why do we want to have a temporary solution for a cell tower now and ruin our environment forever? On a personal note, my family and I lived on Litchfield Turnpike for more than 30 years. We have reveled in the beauty of that part of town for all this time. Once land is ruined, land cannot be restored. We must conserve it and preserve it in every way we can. When we here are gone, the land will remain. I can only hope that by protecting it from an intrusion like the installation of this cell tower, families in the future will continue to treasure the land and enjoy the privilege we have had for a long time. I thank you.
Constance Sarah, to be followed by Kathy Duhan. And if anybody else wishes to speak, you make sure you sign up outside, please.
My name is Constance Cryer Eklund. I live at 27 Cedar Road in Woodbridge.
Great. And do me a favor, do spell it so that poor Gail makes sure she gets it.
E-C-K-L-U-N-D, Land of Oak.
Great. Thank you very much.
This day has been a full one, and many excellent remarks have been made. I would like to begin my own comments with two statements. No one here is against the Shepherd family for their proposal of a cell tower. No one here is against technology or coverage from cell phone service. We are compassionate neighbors and intelligent people, and we understand security needs. What I and many are against is the imposition of the cell tower in the location chosen. We are against it as totally inimical to the landscape in which it would sit, as yet one more excrescence to join the army of electrical pylons as they march at will and against our will across our town. It is to speak against such an excrescence that I will give you three arguments. But may I allude first to the balloon. It's disingenuous, that balloon. Red, bouncing, cinematic, joyful, deceptive. It didn't reach the height, and it is not the structure that will stand there in Happy Valley. And may I allude to an afternoon point made in the discussion by those of the Siting Council and those whom they questioned. It was brought up that 1 to 2 seconds might happen in dead space on Route 63. We would lose our sight for that. And that also the members of the AT&T group admitted it cannot be 100% effective. And thirdly, it was pointed out that there is cell phone service at the moment. Well, my first argument is this, that it is erroneous for the Connecticut Commission on Culture and Tourism, which evaluated the proposal in January of last year, decided there would be no adverse effect on cultural resources or on any historic site. I repeat what others have said, but it is worth repeating, and I know it'll be said again tonight. The entire area leading to the farm is historically significant, from the Darling House to the Great Brick Kiln at Litchfield and down. To drive this area in any season is to find made visible to the 21st century eye culturally important structures and landscape which constituted Woodbridge when founded. To place a pylon of 9 stories in the midst of these, our own seminal stories of existence as an incorporated area, is to destroy that small yet intensely important historicity which remains to us and to all who now and will drive this road. I can promise you, no tourist will stop and pause and photograph the beauty of a woodland autumn because sun is glinting on a cell tower, even if its metal is in the shape of a tree that will rise 100 feet above the natural tree level. Even, as it was said this afternoon, that these poles can be, and I cite our guests, pretty ugly. The second argument concerns the CL&P and AT&T assertion that this is the only possible site. They speak of the impossibility of using co-location to place the telephone apparatus on one of the already existing electrical towers. I propose a fine such tower location is on Johnson Road. I brought photos, which I'm very happy to leave with you, of this area on Johnson Road with a pylon similar to the one which you feel would be appropriate. I would have to present those to you. I propose that their outage rating, that is the outage rating of the CL&P, category of 4, held up as a bulwark against any co-location, and I quote from Lori Aylesworth of CL&P's Engineering and Maintenance Division. They are so extremely difficult to obtain that in all likelihood they may never be obtained. I think that's in contradiction to the actual existence of a cell phone attachment on what I believe is a Category 4 line, but at least I know that it is there in Cheshire. There it stands, there on the top is the telephone. Again, I am happy to present these photographs. Other sites have been also proposed, but I think that most critics are of the opinion that now that we have to learn to live with power lines of great height and size, they might as well earn their keep, so to speak, with a cell attachment. Why not recycle, as it were, this already existing ugliness? Or investigate the 1764 Litchfield mentioned by Mrs. Pope this afternoon, or the industrial area. For people from the AT&T and other gentlemen this afternoon to say that, quote, they, I mean the CL&P people, are hard to deal with and we've tried to get through to them and we cannot, I feel that is unacceptable. And may I say, it is not in the spirit of Americans can do. The third argument is not practical or technical. My third argument is profound and lies in the beauty of this site. This site, ladies and gentlemen, is an exceptional suite of natural enhancement, not only for those who are graced by living near it, but for all who pass by. Yes, even those who are experiencing their 1 to 2 seconds of hole in their cell phone service. To look to these hills is to have hope, is to be sustained. To see the undulating sweep of unbroken sky and foliage marching ever higher upward toward Bethany is to have, if only for that brief drive, knowledge that this is as good as it gets. This is our national park. This is our West. Imagine a calendar photo showing the iconic long line horizon of the Grand Tetons with a cell tower set in the center. You are playing with this type of desecration. This tower is a stake in the natural, historic, beautiful heart that is Woodbridge. Do we rush to insert a tall, columnar tower, be it blue, green, or gray, cradled in the arms of liberty, just because she is high? John Muir knew far better than the experts of his day that, I quote, "In every walk with nature, one receives far more than he seeks," unquote. John Muir is looking down on us as we debate today. Do you, the Siting Council, wish to be responsible for our receiving far more than we seek by putting into this quintessential walk with nature the surprise of a current-carrying metal monopole at least 170 feet high? Of an access roadway to that surprise? Of the required maintenance structures for that surprise? Let me conclude by saying that if this were a place of worship, I would end with, "Lord, hear our prayer." But instead, in passionate defense of saving this site, of saying no to destruction of unique beauty, I say, members of the Siting Council, hear and heed our argument in defense of leaving this special place alone. Please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kathy Duhon, D-U-H-O-N. I live at 1885 Litchfield Turnpike, just down the street from the Shepherd's Farm. My drive down Route 69, Litchfield Turnpike, starts at the Merritt Parkway. And in a 2-mile there's a 2-mile amazing transformation. We start with houses, some quite simple. We pass a couple of major intersections. Houses become more sparse. And then you think you're in Vermont or New Hampshire. It's exquisite, absolute exquisite beauty. Memories of days gone by, Happy Valley, which my own property lives onto. A meandering, scenic landscape, easing its way into Bethany. Lakes, ponds, and horse farms, We could all be in Mrs. Shepherd's shoes, supporting her children and looking for additional revenue to perhaps renovate her farm. We in our house have had friends and neighbors visit. They've all remarked at the beauty of the area. We've had hawks, egrets, herons and geese, coyotes, deer and otters drink and play in our pond. You may argue no environmental impact will be felt here. I beg to differ. We've already seen a lack of otters come back to our pond now that the electrical towers have gone in. Simply said, there's no place for more towers. You either move the tower further away, off the roads, or co-locate and piggyback it with existing towers. Woodbridge and Bethany Towers don't want to see any more unsightly ones.
Don Menzies, to be followed by Dorothy McCrum. Menzies.
Yes, Don Menzies, that's Menzies, 1880 Litchfield Turnpike. I'm also president of the Amity and Woodbridge Historical Society located at the Thomas Darling House, which is 1907 Litchfield Turnpike. I've decided it pays to get here early so that you can sign your name up before everybody else, because all my good friends and neighbors behind me have pretty much covered what I have come to speak about tonight. I could regale you with stories about the history of the area dating back to the 17th century. I don't need to do that. So I will just focus on one little bit that has been touched upon already and just bring it a little more in focus and a little more to light. I hope that you would really take care when you're considering it. I'd like to set the record straight and correct an error that I found in a letter from the Connecticut Commission on Culture and Tourism, Historic Preservation and Museum Division, dated January 15th, 2009. It was addressed to a Mr. Lyle C. Torp from the Ottery Group, which I think you guys probably got a copy of. In that letter, David Ballman, who is the division director, states that, and I quote, "While the facility will be constructed on Shepherd Farms, a property which may meet the criteria for listing on the National Register of Historic Places, the undertaking will have no adverse effect on cultural resources." Mr. Ballman, for some reason, failed to note that there is indeed a listed historic cultural resource that is located actually quite close to the proposed construction site. The circa 1870 Woodbridge Cement and Umber Company stone kiln is at the corner of Litchfield Turnpike and Dillon Road, and it is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. I just want to make that perfectly clear to everyone. And furthermore, it is in a very fragile state, and we do fear that any significant vibrations created during the construction could cause irreparable damage to this already compromised nationally listed cultural resource. So we would strongly urge the council, along with everyone else, to limit the cellular telecommunications equipment to pre-existing high power lines or a suitable alternative, which has been successfully utilized in other locations. And while the Historical Society joins with our neighbors, and we would rather not see any cellular communication devices disrupting the scenic beauty of the valley, we believe this compromise would reduce the visual impact significantly and protect a prominent historic structure that has been deemed important enough to be elevated to national recognition. I have copies of this letter, which I will leave with someone, and I thank you.
Mr. Phelps, our Executive Director. Thank you, Mr. Menzies. To be followed by Blaine Doan.
Dorothy McCrum, 3 Alling Avenue. I'm here to support Sarah's application to put up the cell tower. I am a school bus owner-operator in this town since 1976, and we are required by the Amity school system to carry cell phones on our school buses. Naturally, we're not supposed to use them while we're driving, but in the event of an emergency, they want us to have them. Litchfield Turnpike is my Beecher School, elementary school route, and I do find, just in glancing over at my phone to see how many bars are showing up in the corner, there are bad spots. I had a student on my bus, no longer, but she was on my bus for several years, where I had written a demand from Beecher School because of her health issues. If she were to have a seizure, I was to call 911. You pull over, call 911 immediately. I've had concern about that because I know our cell phone coverage isn't all that great. I suppose I can't really speak for my husband, who is a volunteer fireman here in town. He's over at his meeting tonight with the fire department. But he has stated his concerns for the lack of coverage. Tonight I've heard so many people speak about preservation of their view and preservation of the way they want to see the scenery. I haven't heard a word about preservation of the farm. When we came to town in 1972, there were probably 7 or 8 working farms in town, by which I state livestock and fields, you know, what these people would love to see today, that have all been replaced with housing developments. I find seeing rows of mega mansions and housing projects far more objectionable than our last remaining farm having a cell tower on the hill. In fact, as I stated, that is my Beecher School roof. So I'm up and down there at least 4 times a day. I saw the floating balloon today, and I was amazed at how high it was. But like anything else, somebody mentioned an alternative site at something like 1664 Litchfield, which is also my school bus route. I don't even know where they mean. So apparently, this tower, after a spell, you don't even see it anymore, whichever tower they're speaking of. I think after a while, you wouldn't even notice the tower on the hill behind the Shepherd Farm. I am strongly supportive of Sarah in her hope to gain some revenue from having this tower on her farm so that she can preserve the farm, because the farm has gone downhill. I was good friends with her former father-in-law, Fred Shepherd, for many years, and it's always been a struggle to keep a farm alive, and it gets worse every year. And if these people that don't want to see a tower up on the hill behind the farm, what is her alternative? To sell a couple of building lots and lose the farm in that manner? Would that be more attractive to have a couple of mega mansions on that 26 acres? I'm sorry, I didn't have a prepared speech, and that's pretty much all I can say. Thank you.
I must tell you, we never hear spouses speaking for each other. It just never happens around here, so it was refreshing. Thank you. I think, is it Blaine or Diane Dillon? Diane, well, that's, sorry, it must be my eyes. To be followed by Alan Smits.
Right, I didn't realize my handwriting was that bad.
No, it's just, you must have been on a corner or something.
Okay, so I'm Diane Dolan. I live at 40 Rock Hill Road. Actually, I own 2 property in town right now. And I do not have cell phone service where I live. I didn't have cell phone service at my prior address.
Can you tell me where that is in relation to
Oh,
the house?
the other
Refresh my
address is
recollection.
12 Sunbrook Road.
No, I mean, where is that, your house, in relation to this tower?
The tower will be on the ridge, kind of, I'm sort of off of 67, so it would be on the ridge, sort of, you know, within that radius.
Thank you.
I have had some medical issues where it would have been not crucial, but certainly very helpful to have had cell service. You can't report any outages. It's an issue where when you're maintaining communication and it's important for medical purposes, you don't have it. I've been in town for over 25 years, and there have been multiple instances where we've talked about cell phone towers, and in each case they've been turned down because of the scenic beauty of the town, and I appreciate the fact that I moved to this town partially for that reason. However, as every tower proposal is turned down, I'm beginning to wonder, will we ever get a tower? And on the ridge, it's proposed, and I'm hearing a mono tower, I'm not hearing a lattice-based tower, I'm hearing a small enclosure area. I think in terms of what has been proposed before, this certainly, in my opinion, has a smaller impact than some of the prior proposals. I think it's something that we need to do. I think it's a matter of safety. I think it's a matter of medical concern for some of our residents, and I would heartily endorse the proposal.
Thank you, Ms. Dillon. Alan Smits, to be followed by Bill Fisher.
Good evening. My name is Alan Smits. Last name is spelled S-M-I-T-S, and I live on 40 Rock Hill Road. I'll claim right off the start that I'm a relative newcomer to Woodbridge, and so I claim a lot of naivety to the issues and all the details that have gone on before I moved to this lovely town. But I'd sort of like to speak with two perspectives. The first, I'd like to indicate that I'm a professor of biology. I'm also a dean of sciences. And so as somebody that has studied animals and plants all their life, I am moved by the compassion, by the perspective of conservation and beauty to maintain what is in Woodbridge. But I have to be honest with myself and also think pragmatically about this cell service and what a lack of cell service would continue to haunt this community. If anybody has been paying attention to the news, you know that the future of telecommunications is mobile. We will be losing our landlines in the decades to come, perhaps even sooner than that. And so with the loss of landlines, one must sign up with a cable company in order to get a hardwired communication device in your house. So if you don't do that, you need to be dependent upon mobile devices such as cell phones. As we move to more mobility, we put a greater and greater onus on using that mobility wherever we are. So are we going to, by postponing this and future opportunities to fill in the mobile space with this type of communication, are we going to now threaten or endanger the health and safety of our population? That's my major concern. I do not know enough about this particular proposal to say if it's a good one or a bad one, but I do fear that unless we act relatively soon with establishing better cell service within Woodbridge, we put the lives of our population, of our community in future danger. Thank you very much.
Bill Fisher, to be followed by John Zavinka. Mr. Fisher, I take it you're not related to Attorney Fisher, right?
I don't know Attorney Fisher.
Okay, well, you're just going to clarify
And
that.
after I spell my name, it may be clear that we're not related.
Oh, well,
It's
okay.
F-I-S-C-H-E-R.
Attorney Fisher, how do you spell your name? Last name. Okay.
So we have C and no C.
Thank you. And where do you live?
I live on Litchfield Turnpike in Bethany, where I've lived since 1991. Oh my goodness, that's 19 years. I started out with one of those clunky bag cell phones, you know, that with the zipper bag and stuff. And 19 years, you know, that's a long time to have a cell phone. And I still can't get any service at my house or anywhere near it or up and down Litchfield Turnpike. And that's a drag. It was a professional drag when I was a practicing physician. I'm not that anymore, I'm retired. But in any case, the absence of cell phone service, it's definitely a limitation. And I appreciate both sides of the argument tonight. However, what I have heard indicates that it's been a long time with different proposals for improved cell service in this area. And I would endorse this proposal for improved cell service. That's all I have to say, really. Thank you.
Zavinka, to be followed by Beth Keller. I'm sorry, Heller.
Hello, my name is John Zavinka. I live at 226 Bethel Road in Bethany. I would just like to say
And
that...
Mr. Zavinka, tell me, where is that in relation to this town?
In Bethany, approximately 2 or 3 miles away.
Oh, still Bethany. Okay,
Yes.
thanks, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I would just like to say that the idea of a cell tower seems to be inevitable, and that it seems an appropriate location, and that the objections I've heard to this proposed site is mainly due to aesthetic reasons, and I would just like to say that, you know, the monetary value of this that would mean to the Shepherd Farm is, how shall I say, very vital. If we don't have this tower there, then how else will this proposed income be replaced to these people? Let's just face reality. You know, I've heard other things. We don't want to see the cell tower there. Well, how would we like to see 4 or 5 houses there? I just don't know what to say, except that the alternatives are probably less desirable than seeing one tower there than seeing 4 houses in that area. I'm sorry I'm not a good speaker. I'm sorry I don't have a prepared statement. I just feel that this is the lesser of evils, that if this is not allowed to be there, well, let's let everybody think of the alternatives. Thank you.
Thanks very much. And we always appreciate it, actually, when people speak from their heart rather than from their paper. Beth Heller, to be followed by Mary Gordon.
Hi, Beth Heller. I'm a member of the Woodbridge Board of Selectmen, and I live at number 6 Hunters Ridge in Woodbridge. I am going to be brief because most of the speakers have spoken about the way I feel, but I will summarize being brief. Dear members of the Connecticut Siting Council, as a Woodbridge resident and member of the Woodbridge Board of Selectmen, I share the concerns of neighboring residents that the placement of the communications tower in the proposed location on the Shepherd Farm on Litchfield Turnpike will change forever an historic and beautiful landscape with negative consequences, both seen and unseen, for the environment. In October 2009, the Woodbridge Board of Selectmen voted unanimously to request that the Siting Council explore alternative locations for a proposed tower. If the tower must be near this location, I respectfully request that the Siting Council consider installing the antenna on an existing structure in the area, for example, the new 345-volt kilowatt transmission line towers. If the Shepherd property is the only viable option, I would strongly urge the Council to require that the cell tower be hidden in a more visually pleasing structure, such as a barn or a silo. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Selectman Heller. Oh, sure. If you want to leave it with Mr. Phelps, or... Thank you. Mary Gorham, to be followed by Bob Lightfoot.
Mary Gorham apologizes that she has to pick her daughter, so she
Oh,
has
okay.
to read this.
Well, actually, why don't you just give the letter? We'll be glad to read it. Thank you very much. Bob Lightfoot, then, and to be followed by Thomas A. Temmis.
Good evening. My name is Bob Lightfoot, L-I-G-H-T-F-O-O-T, 328 Downs Road.
Can you tell me where that is in relation to what
It's
we're looking at?
a couple miles right up north of
Oh, thank you.
Sure. As an active member of the EMS community, I've witnessed many accidents there on Downs Road that have had a delay in being reported. I also am a trauma nurse down at Yale State Hospital and have actually witnessed this. It's putting our community at risk, and it's close to my heart, and as a member of the community right there on Downs Road, it's a very sensitive point for me, and I think that's much more important than the aesthetic value of our community. Also, as far as aesthetics are concerned, the immediate area that they're talking about putting this tower in is already compromised. They have the twin tanks there of the water authority. They have huge fences already put up. The lion's den or the kiln that they're talking about is in total disrepair with huge metal fences around it. It's awful to look at. In the woods, there's a twin lion's den that's in great shape that they should concentrate more on preserving. If you turn around, directly around from that lion's den right there, there's wires going across this dam that have these big, huge, yellow and white helicopter awareness balls. The area is already compromised. It's beautiful, but what's one tower going to do to it? I don't think it'll do much more. I think our safety is much more of a concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Whitefoot. Thomas Tempest, to be followed by Evia Alexandrias.
Good evening. My name is Thomas Tambis, and I live at 73 Orchard Road in Woodbridge, which is right off Newton Road, close to Amity High School. I'd like to begin by telling everyone that Sarah Shepard is my friend. The facts have been well represented tonight and presented to the Siting Council. In the future, I see a barn and a silo that's been refurbished to make our area look better. It's an opportunity for a family that's had a few setbacks that everyone knows about. The first selectman reads a letter. The head of the Conservation and Preservation Committee talks about the right thing to do as I systematically see the flats being developed. You talk about alternatives like Johnson Road and further up Litchfield Turnpike. I used to see a dungeon in New Haven called the Knights of Columbus. After a while, it wasn't there anymore. Now it's not there anymore. If the system of cellular phone communication should change in the future, there can be a provision to remove the tower at the expense of the development companies. I have no service in Woodbridge. Dropouts to my important phone calls since I put a Bluetooth on my right ear have been embarrassing, at least. Opponents of this project talk about a bucolic and beautiful historic area as cars race up Route 69 and down Route 69 trying to beat the radar machines. And a few other frustrated poets among us. Thank you very much for your time. I hope you make the right decision.
Leah Alexandrias. I pronounced your first name wrong earlier. I just couldn't. It's either your writing or my reading.
Probably both.
And we're going to be followed also on deck is Jody Segner. Please proceed.
My name is Elia Alexiadis. I live at 14 Seymour Road, which is near the corner of 67 and 63, about a mile or so up Dillon Road from the cited issue. I'm a member of the Board of Fire Commissioners here in Woodbridge, and I'm here to support the family farm. The Shepherd Farm being there since 1887, and the last, to my knowledge, the last working farm in Woodbridge after so many years. And I rode Fred Shepherd's bus when I was a kid. I took a ride today up and down Litchfield Turnpike, as I often do, but I took a ride to see the balloon, and my memory of my drive this afternoon is different from what I've heard this evening, because drive up the road, there are the 345 kilovolt power lines, the pylons going across the road and through the ridge. There are old-fashioned telephone wires going all the way up the road, sitting in the parking area of the Darling House. You can see the power lines, and then right across from this site is the water treatment plant. It is hardly a pristine area. I don't think a tower is going to make that much more of a difference. Furthermore, if you look back towards West Rock Ridge, the top of the ridge is dotted with red and white painted antenna towers. So I'm here in favor of the proposal. I think that it is I understand the arguments against it, but I think on balance it's a good thing for our town. Thank you.
Jody Seidner. And if anybody else hasn't signed up and wishes to speak, there's still room outside, if there's room in your heart.
My name is Jody Seidner. Seidner's S-E-I-D-N-E-R. I live at 9 Blue Trail Drive. You've asked a lot of people prior where that is in proximity. I actually live right at the top of the hill there. If you go up that steep Dillon Road, I live on the street on the left there.
Great, thank you.
I've been waiting for this day to see where that balloon was going to be because, as you can imagine, one of my primary concerns is, am I going to be able to see this tower from my backyard? How is that going to change the 35 or 50 plus acres that I get to look at and see all kinds of wildlife? And I was feeling okay about that until everybody started to mention that the balloon didn't hit full height, because I couldn't see it from my backyard, but I don't know how that's ultimately going to turn out. But I guess this is a difficult challenge, and I don't envy any of you on this committee trying to figure this out. As I listened to this all tonight, and I didn't write a prepared speech, but as I listened to what's going on, we have environmental issues, we have safety and health concerns, we have keeping up with technology, we're looking to maintain a farm that's been around for centuries in our community as an important part of the history of the community as well, and I don't envy what you're going to have to decide. But I guess my question or my comment is that I'm a bit of an idealist here, and I guess I'm wondering, isn't there a way that we can accommodate all of these things without really significantly impacting any of them in a negative way? So when I put all that together in my mind, I guess I'm not in favor of the petition and kind of challenge us to find a better way. There's got to be a better solution to this that meets all of these concerns, because as I listened to each person, I understood their concerns and I had empathy for it, but I guess on balance, I'm not necessarily in favor of this proposal, but we need to solve some of these problems, and there's just got to be a better way.
Great, well, I appreciate you sort of summed up all the issues that we have to consider in this one, and everyone else we do. I also, because you weren't here, but we did ask the question with regard to the balloon and what role the wind played. And there were times, the testimony was to us, there were times when when the wind died down and was straight up, and otherwise it could have been anywhere from 20 feet, depending on where the wind blows. So if you saw the balloon and sometimes, sort of envision, if you put 20 feet on that, you might get what you'd be looking at. Okay?
I guess that wouldn't help me from the other side of the ridge, though, because I don't know how much farther below the balloon was than the ridge line behind my house. So
yeah, I don't.
But hopefully
next time have this for coffee. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who hasn't signed up to speak, who wishes to provide us with anything else at this time? Hurry up, because the train's leaving. But I'm just going to have to guess at your name now.
told myself I wasn't going to say anything tonight, but I can't resist. My name's Marilyn Klatskin, K-L-A-T-Z-K-I-N. I live at 21 Bond Road.
And in relation to?
In Woodbridge. My street runs from 69 to 63.
Thank you.
About a mile or so from the proposed site. And I wanted to say that I, too, thank you for your job, and I don't envy your job, and I read about you all the time in the paper, and you have a lot to listen to.
We're going to give you our side of the story.
But somebody mentioned that there are lots of tragedies that happen in life, and I know that things have happened to the shepherds and the farm, and I am sensitive to that, and I'm sorry for that. But you, as a siting council's job, is not to bail shepherds out of whatever kind of monetary problems they're having. And I would like to respectfully suggest to the shepherds that, Sarah Shepherd, that you apply for state grants. There's federal grants. We do it at the school I work at all the time. We're very successful. I volunteer to help you with grant applications.
Unfortunately, that's getting way beyond what I would like to hear with regard to the town.
Well,
it's not about Ms. Shepherd or her finances or anything else.
But people here have mentioned that.
Talk to me about the tower, please.
I'm opposed to the tower. I believe it is not the job of the siting council to consider saving a farm as other people's. That would be another issue. And I would also respectfully suggest, since there are people here from Bethany who would love to have a cell, who are in favor, that you move the cell tower to Bethany.
Is there anyone else who hasn't signed up and wishes to speak at this time? Seeing no one else, then I'm going to declare this public hearing portion of this hearing closed. We're going to take a 1-minute break and set everything up, and then we'll resume the hearing, at which time perhaps those of you who might have had questions might hear some answers to some of those items. Okay? Thank you. And thank you all for coming.